Rivals 2 made a big impact on the platfighting scene in 2024. It went from a small, 6-character content creator build to being a massive game with dozens of events and thousands of interested competitors. Today, we'll be looking back on the growth and changes of the game over the past year, as well as highlighting big tournaments and discussing big community moments. January started the year out a little slow. The Kickstarter was fully closed at this point, with it raising over 1 million US dollars. Everyone who pre ordered the game was given these cool retro skins with cel shading, as well as a special raster skin. A pledge manager was launched to distribute codes and allow late pledges to still give out rewards even if you missed the tight window of the initial Kickstarter. In February, we had Genesis X. It was February 16th to 18th. Clarin and Loxodon were both revealed to be playable at this event, and it was the first big public Rivals 2 bracket, getting a ton of attention from Melee, Ult, and PM players, as well as the already established Rivals player base. Crag dominated this bracket, with ZB taking the win. Sadly, a crack of this game did get out from someone downloading the game onto a USB at the event. Players were able to play the game early, which was a common theme after this with the reoccurring betas every month. March was also a bit slower of a month, while the devs got the Kickstarter betas all ready to go. Players attending Collision on the 15th were able to enter a bracket for the game, with Cake Assault taking home the gold as Zetterburn. Switch got second in the event, beating multiple top Rivals players, showing that PM players definitely had a place in the conversation for being the best of the best in Rivals 2. There was a closed beta as well this month, with only a small handful of players getting into test servers. Recording and streaming wasn't allowed, so I don't have a lot of proof for this one, you'll just have to trust me. April was also arguably a pretty light month for the game, with backers being able to play in the first beta from the 26th to the 28th. The game had a really limited amount of servers at this time and only came with 7 characters, as well as a few silly little bugs. Looking back, some highlights of the meta were shields being really overtuned and crouch canceling being egregiously strong. These were both adjusted and addressed in future patches though, and they're both still being tuned as the devs find a good mix of defensive and aggressive options for the game. On June 7th, it was announced that Offbrand Games, Ludwig's company, will be publishing Rivals 2 at an IGN Live event. This brought in tons of excitement, and since it wasn't a well-kept secret that the games needed a publisher to be financially successful post-launch. What this meant for the community is that there would be lots of cool events and support for the game long-term. Players were also able to play in a demo this month, with a lot of fixes to the bugs from the previous month and a ton of quality of life improvements. There was one really funny bug this month where Maple couldn't wall jump on Air Armada, but past that, the game was running super smoothly. And also, I know this isn't a video about me or the channel, but this was the beta where I recorded and made my first few videos about the game. It's been really cool making content for it, and time's flown by so fast. So I just want to say thanks so much to everyone who's liked videos or subscribed to the channel, or maybe even just played in my Wi-Fi brackets or in my Discord. I try to keep these videos a bit less personal and just talk about the game, but it's been so awesome seeing what I thought would be a 50-view video, just watched by my local scene, grow into something a lot larger than that. So thanks bunches for all the support this year. Moving on to July, Arcane was revealed to be playable at EVO. He was shown off with a cute watercolor trailer and an axolotl skin, featured in his Rivals Cart leak. All of his new specials revolved around his puddle placement. Also, speaking on the Rivals Cart leak, if you didn't know, there's this weird video uploaded by a Twitter account called John Arcane, and it showed off Arcane on a skateboard type thing, moving around the map, kind of like Kirby Air Ride. The creator had to come out and say it was fake and that the devs didn't make this because I think they got a little bit concerned that people thought it was real. But it was a really cool way to leak a skin and a render and a model besides just posting them online. Looking back, it's one of the funniest moments in the community's history. Arcane was also playable in the beta later on this month, and his slippery movement was made even better with shielding. His gameplay felt super great, and from what I remember, everyone loved him. In August, the largest Rivals 2 event up until this point was hosted August 8th, previously known as SmashCon but now dubbing the new branding Supernova. Cake Assault won the event, showing off Fleet and her high skill floor. There was also a Smashers versus Rivals player crew battle, and a lot of spectators, including me, thought it'd be a Rivals player sweep. But the Smashers actually kept it really close, with both teams getting down to their last players. In September, we had our last month before the game's full release. However, we didn't know that right from the start. The Rivals 2 trailer was dropped September 18th, announcing a drop date for October 23rd. Being completely honest, I think a lot of the community members were expecting a mid to late November or early December launch, so getting a launch in mid-October was really shocking to a lot of people. To kick off October, Wavelength hosted a 99-player bracket from October 5th to 6th, with Boyko winning the event over Cake Assault, showing that the once dominant player was definitely beatable. On October 14th, the Steam Next Fest started, kicking the game off into early access. This build was 100% free for anyone to try, getting thousands of downloads. The shop wasn't fully functionable, since currency wouldn't be purchasable until the full launch, but it did show off how much free currency was available in the game just by playing the characters, with over $25 being earnable from the leveling system alone. This was also the first time players were able to try out Forceburn, since the game was in its final build, minus the shop and events that we previously mentioned. During the next fest, Hungrybox hosted the first Rivals 2 Coinbox event for Rivals, with 3k in prizing. This led to Marlin washing the competition as both Raster and Orcane, showing off two characters that hadn't been seen too often in competition previously. The game finally launched on October 23rd with the Halloween event. This was our first event, but it didn't have an event track like the future ones did. November was a busy month for the game, with the game being fully out and in full swing. Luminosity Makes Moves Miami was hosted November 1st through 3rd, with Marlin getting announced to be signed to Luminosity. However, within a day or so, allegations about inappropriate behavior in the past came out about him, leading to him dropping out of day 2 of the event and him getting a tent ban from future events, including Ludwig's Invitational. In my opinion, his actions aren't permaban worthy, and they took place when he was like 15. That doesn't excuse what he did, but this part of the video isn't here to paint him in a bad light, because I don't think he's some kind of evil person or anything. I just want to be sure to give context to why you won't see him in top 8s after this, even though he's probably a top 1 or 2 player in the game. Sinbad ended up winning the bracket with MKLeo placing 3rd, shaking up his impact on the game since he hasn't played other fighting games past Smash Ultimate seriously in years if my memory serves me right. Ludwig also announced his Invitational, which I already mentioned, featuring lots of Ultimate and Melee players competing for $25,000 in prize money. A common complaint about this announcement was that there was only 3 Rivals players repping the game, leading to Off-Brand opening up more earnable spots being featured in Hungrybox's Coinbox event and Heatwave 7. Just a week later, Coinbox 117 had over 1,000 entrants, making it one of the largest Rivals events of all time. It had a $1,000 pop bonus, as well as the top 3 players being invited to Ludwig's Rivals Invitational. Ron Gunshu won the event with Clarin. Ion and Luck both also claimed spots for Ludwig's Invitational from placing top 3. Heatwave 7 took place later that week, with Cake Assault winning singles as Fleet, all without dropping a game. ZB also got 2nd with Crag, and Squanto got 3rd with Rano. All of this built up to November 23rd through 24th with the LACS Rivals event hosted by Ludwig. Cake Assault got 1st place with ZB in 2nd, and Mystery Soul in 3rd. This kind of showed off that players from Melee or players from Ultimate were definitely solid at the game, but that the Rivals players were still coming out on top at the end of the day. In December, our first major balance patch targeted annoying things in the game, like projectiles and mashing, as well as moves that killed just a bit too early. This patch resulted in nerfs across the board, however, Orcane, Fleet, Rano, and Crag were all hit the hardest. Orcane has not escaped pools in any major since then. I think this was healthy for the game overall, but as an Orcane main, it's been a bit rough. If you're struggling with the game right now, just remember it's the worst it'll ever be, and it'll only get better from here as patches get more focused and refined. December 18th was also home to another Rivals 2 Coinbox, with a $1,000 pot bonus sponsored by the Rivals team and Off-Brand. Switch took home the gold, with Zetterburn filling up the top 8 graphic. This led to a lot of talk about Zetterburn being a little bit overtuned and broken, while Zetter players came back with retorts pointing out all of his many weaknesses. I personally sit somewhere in the middle of this, since I think that Zetter is slightly overtuned right now, with his moves being really hard to punish, while being slightly too fast to parry, but I also think Zetter is one of the more interesting characters from both a player perspective and spectator standpoint, so while I do think he's a little overtuned right now, I don't think he needs massive nerfs like what Fleet and Orcane got. To end out the year, we had a special livestream from Santa himself, bringing us lots of presents in the form of skins for everyone's favorite fighters. These presents are actually running a little behind and should get here in the first week or so of January, but from what they showed off in the trailer, they look really sick. Speaking of trailers, Santa also showed off our next furry friend, Edalus. Edalus looks like a sick addition to the roster, and I'm really excited for him to release late January. That just about wraps up Rivals 2 in 2024. It felt like a really long year for the game, since playtime was fragmented into 1 week every month, dragging it out for what felt like forever. But we made it, and that's what matters. If I missed anything, or your favorite moment from the year wasn't here, let me know. I'm going to be doing these as a yearly recap going forwards, and I'll be taking better notes throughout 2025, so hopefully I'll be able to include more community moments next time around. If you're looking for more content, I have a link to our Rivals Guides playlist on screen right now. And I'm working on a script going over everything coming up in 2025, so if you want to hear about that, you should definitely subscribe. Thanks again for making 2024 awesome, and I'll see you in the New Year's.